The Galactic Council fools dared mock a human child. They were about to pay dearly for their insolence. 8-year-old Roy Bryant fidgeted nervously in the Galactic Council's opulent chambers on planet Zephyria. He was the first human child ever permitted to attend a session. His parents, renowned diplomats Sarah and Michael Bryant, were finalizing a landmark trade deal between Earth and the Nigan Empire. Roy's wide-eyed wonder soon got the better of him. He wandered off to explore the alien surroundings. His unsupervised explorations led him right into the council meeting before his parents realized he was missing. Fascinated by the diverse alien species, Roy approached the podium and began eagerly asking questions, interrupting esteemed Nigan counselor Lyra Vox mid-speech. Lyra grew increasingly irritated as Roy's innocent but persistent questions derailed the proceedings. Tensions boiled over when Roy accidentally activated a hologram of Earth's solar system, which the counselors dismissively called a primitive backwater. Lyra publicly rebuked Roy, cruelly mocking his childish ignorance. She declared humanity's lack of sophistication made them unfit for a seat at the galactic table. Roy's humiliated parents finally found him and hurried him out, but the damage was done. News of the incident spread like wildfire. Earth's delegation was outraged by the insult to Roy and all of humanity. In a bold move, Earth's ambassador withdrew from the trade talks. Humanity refused to be belittled and underestimated any longer. As the Bryants left Zephyria, Roy's father secretly contacted Earth's hidden military council. It was time to accelerate their clandestine fleet production program. Humanity must prepare for the inevitable conflict with the Nigans and their allies. The arrogant Galactic Council, underestimating Earth's iron resolve and vast capabilities, foolishly dismissed the incident as a minor diplomatic faux pas. Little did they realize, their cruel mockery had sown the seeds of a fierce brewing interstellar war. A war humanity was determined to win at all costs. 15 years had passed since that fateful day on Zephyria. Roy Bryant, now a brilliant 23-year-old aerospace engineer, strode confidently through the halls of the secret Earth Defense Fleet, EDF, headquarters. His keen intellect and unwavering willpower to prove humanity's worth had caught the attention of Admiral Victor Graves, who personally selected Roy to join an elite team tasked with reverse engineering advanced alien technologies. As Roy entered the high-security research lab, he nodded to his fellow team members, each handpicked for their exceptional skills. The lab buzzed with activity, holographic displays flickering with schematics of alien ships and weapons. Roy immediately got to work, his mind racing with ideas on how to adapt the salvaged tech for human use. Weeks turned into months as Roy and his team worked tirelessly, pushing the boundaries of their understanding. Slowly but surely, the alien technologies began to yield their secrets. Powerful energy weapons, impenetrable shielding systems, and sophisticated AI-driven navigation software, all were painstakingly integrated into the EDF's growing fleet. Admiral Graves watched the progress with a mixture of pride and anticipation. He knew that each breakthrough brought Earth one step closer to being able to stand toe-to-toe with the Galactic Council. In secret meetings with representatives from other slighted species, Graves forged alliances that would prove crucial in the coming conflict. Among these new allies was Zara Kex, a brilliant Nigan technician who had defected from her government. Her inside knowledge of Nigan technology and innovative ideas had proven invaluable to the EDF's preparations. As Roy worked alongside Zara, he couldn't help but admire her fierce intelligence and dedication to their shared cause. As Earth's fleet grew in strength and numbers, tensions with the Galactic Council reached a boiling point. Human diplomats, emboldened by their secret military advancements, took an increasingly assertive stance in galactic affairs. Counselor Lyra Vox, still dismissive of humanity's potential, began to suspect that Earth was hiding something, but her concerns fell on deaf ears. In the quiet moments between breakthroughs, Roy often reflected on the childhood incident that had set these events in motion. The humiliation he had felt, the cruel mockery of the Galactic Council, it all fueled his perseverance to ensure that humanity would never again be underestimated or belittled. As he stood before the latest prototype fighter, its sleek hull gleaming under the lab's lights, Roy felt a surge of pride. The EDF's plans were nearing completion, and Earth stood on the brink of a war that would forever change the balance of power in the galaxy. Roy knew that when the time came, he and his fellow humans would be ready to prove their worth, once and for all. As the Earth Defense Fleet's preparations entered their final stages, Admiral Victor Graves summoned Roy Bryant and his elite team to the war room. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing the gleaming spires of the Galactic Council's headquarters on Zephyria. "Roy, your mission is critical," Graves said, his unwavering focus fixed on the young engineer. "We need intel on their defenses, any weaknesses we can exploit. You'll be going in with Zara, using the stealth tech you've developed." Roy nodded, his heart made. He glanced at Zara, who stood beside him, her Nigean features etched with the same resolute expression. They had been through countless trials together, forging an unbreakable bond of trust and shared purpose. The journey to Zephyria was tense, the EDF stealth ship slipping through the void like a wraith. As they approached the planet, Roy and Zara donned their advanced infiltration suits, the microwave fabric adapting to their surroundings like a chameleon's skin. They made their way into the Council's headquarters, the suits' active camouflage rendering them nearly invisible. Roy's heart pounded as they navigated the labyrinthine corridors, the weight of their mission heavy on his shoulders. It was in the heart of the Council's data vault that they made the shocking discovery. Zara, her fingers flying over the holographic interface, let out a low gasp. "Roy, look at this," she whispered, her voice tinged with disbelief. The data scrolled across the screen, painting a damning picture of Counselor Lyra Vox's machinations. For years, she had been manipulating the Council, suppressing and exploiting less advanced species for the benefit of her own people. Trade agreements sabotaged, potential alliances undermined, all to ensure Nigean dominance. Roy's mind reeled at the implications. He thought back to that fateful day, the humiliation he had endured at Lyra's hands. The pieces fell into place, a puzzle of galactic oppression and deceit. They downloaded the evidence, encrypting it with the most secure protocols the EDF had developed. As they made their escape, alarms blared through the halls, the Council's security forces hot on their heels. Back on the stealth ship, Roy and Zara pored over the data, compiling a damning report to be broadcast across the galaxy at the opportune moment. Admiral Graves, upon receiving their findings, knew that this could be the key to weakening the Council's unity, to rallying other wrong species to their cause. On Earth, the EDF's alliance grew stronger by the day. Tarzok, the fearsome Kragan warlord, pledged his fleet to the human cause, his people's thirst for vengeance against the Nigeans a palpable force. The Kragan ships, filled with advanced weaponry, took their place among the EDF armada. As the final preparations were made, Roy stood on the bridge of the EDS Vindication, his flagship. The sleek vessel hummed with power, a testament to the ingenuity and purpose of the human spirit. He thought of Lyra Vox, the Nigean who had set him on this path. The confrontation was inevitable, a reckoning long overdue. Roy knew that when the time came, he would face her not as a child, but as a warrior, a champion of humanity's rightful place among the stars. The fleet assembled, a vast armada of human and allied ships, poised to strike at the heart of the Galactic Council. Admiral Graves's voice crackled over the comm, his words a rallying cry to all who had suffered under the Council's injustice. "Today, we fight not just for Earth, but for every species that has been belittled, underestimated, and oppressed by the Council's arrogance," he declared, his voice resonant with purpose. "Today, we prove that the galaxy belongs to all of us, and that we will no longer be denied our place in it." As the EDS Vindication leapt into hyperspace, the stars blurring into streaks of light, Roy felt a surge of anticipation. The battle ahead would be the greatest test humanity had ever faced, but he knew that they were ready. They had the technology, the allies, and the unyielding spirit to face any challenge. The Galactic Council, in their hubris, had sown the seeds of their own downfall. As the Earth Defense Fleet hurtled towards Zephyria, Roy knew that the reckoning was at hand. The galaxy would never be the same, and humanity would carve its place among the stars, one battle at a time. The EDS Vindication erupted from hyperspace, its sleek hull gleaming against the backdrop of Zephyria's azure atmosphere. Roy Bryant stood on the bridge, his fingers flying across the tactical display as he coordinated the assault. "All ships, engage!" Admiral Graves's voice crackled over the comm. The Earth Defense Fleet surged forward, their advanced weaponry blazing to life. Zephyria's orbital defenses responded with a barrage of energy bolts, but the EDF ship's shields held firm. Roy watched as the alien allies they had gathered joined the fray. Kragan warships, their hulls jam-packed with weaponry, tore through the outer defensive line. "Now Zara!" Roy called out. His Nigan ally nodded, activating the broadcast system. Across every frequency, on every planet in the Council's domain, the evidence of Lyra Vox's treachery began to play. On the Vindication's view screen, Roy saw the confusion spreading through the enemy fleet. Ships hesitated, their fire faltering, as the truth of the Council's corruption became clear. "Multiple contacts breaking formation," reported the tactical officer. They're joining us, sir." Roy allowed himself a grim smile as ships from oppressed species turned against their former masters. The battle lines shifted, the Council's forces finding themselves outnumbered and outgunned. On Zephyria's surface, Counselor Lyra Vox stared in disbelief at the holographic displays, showing her own machinations laid bare for all to see. "This is impossible," she hissed, her composure cracking. "Cut the transmission!" But it was too late. The damage was done. As the space battle raged, Tarzok's voice boomed over the comm. "Humans, we will clear your path." The Kragan warlord's flagship plowed forward, its massive guns concentrating fire on a single point in Zephyria's shields. "All power to forward batteries," Roy ordered. The Vindication surged ahead, its weapons joining Tarzok's assault. For a moment, it seemed the planetary shields would hold. Then, with a blinding flash, they collapsed. "Ground teams, deploy," Admiral Graves commanded. Roy led his strike force to the waiting dropships. As they plummeted through Zephyria's atmosphere, the sounds of battle echoed around them. The Council's headquarters loomed ahead, its once pristine towers now scarred by the conflict. They touched down amid chaos. Council security forces fought desperately against the human-led coalition, but their resistance crumbled in the face of superior tactics and technology. Roy's team cut through the defenders, their path clear. They burst into the Council chambers, weapons raised, and there she was, Lyra Vox, her eyes wide with fear and fury. "You!" she snarled, recognizing Roy. "The human child. Have you come to gloat?" Roy met her gaze, unflinching. "I've come to right a wrong, Counselor. Not just for me, but for every species you've manipulated and oppressed." Lyra's demeanor shifted, a sickly sweet smile spreading across her face. "Surely we can discuss this reasonably," she cooed, her voice dripping with false kindness. "You're still that curious little boy at heart, aren't you?" But Roy saw through her ploy. With a sharp gesture, he signaled his team. They moved swiftly, restraining Lyra before she could react. As they led her away, Roy activated his comm. "Admiral, we have Vox in custody. The Council headquarters are secure." Throughout the city, the sounds of battle began to fade. The remaining counselors, seeing their defeat was inevitable, agreed to Earth's terms. The war was over, but the cost had been high. Roy looked out over Zephyria's sprawling capital, smoke rising from dozens of impact sites. The scars of this conflict would take years to heal, but a new era had begun, one where humanity and its allies would stand as equals in a changed galaxy. The dust settled on Zephyria's ravaged capital as Roy Bryant oversaw the transfer of Counselor Lyra Vox to a secure holding facility. Her once haughty demeanor had crumbled, replaced by a hollow-eyed stare as she shuffled past, flanked by armed guards. "It's over," Roy said, more to himself than anyone else. But as the adrenaline of victory faded, the true cost of their triumph became painfully clear. The list of casualties scrolled endlessly across his datapad, each name a stark reminder of the lives lost in pursuit of humanity's ascension. His comm chirped, "Bryant, we need you on Earth, now." The journey home was a blur of fitful sleep and strategic meetings. When they finally broke atmosphere, Roy's heart sank at the sight of the somber crowds lining the streets. This was no triumphant return. The memorial for Admiral Victor Graves was held beneath a leaden sky. Roy stood at the podium, his mentor's empty dress uniform displayed beside him. Victor Graves believed in humanity's potential, Roy began, his voice carrying across the hushed gathering. He saw beyond our limitations, beyond the derision of those who thought us lesser. Without his guidance, his unwavering determination, we would not be standing here today as equals among the stars. Roy's fists clenched at his sides. I promise you, Admiral, your sacrifice will not be in vain. We will build the future you envisioned, a galaxy of peace, of mutual respect and cooperation. In the months that followed, Roy threw himself into the monumental task of restructuring the Galactic Council. Progress was slow. Each step forward met with resistance, born of centuries-old prejudices. You can't seriously expect us to treat the Nigians as equals after what they've done. Tarzok, the Kragan warlord, slammed his massive fist on the conference table. My people demand retribution. Roy met the alien's glare unflinchingly. And where does it end, Tarzok? When do we break the cycle of vengeance and start building something better? The negotiations dragged on, a constant struggle to balance justice with mercy, to forge alliances without betraying principles. Just as it seemed they might be making headway, a new threat emerged from within. Marcus Reeves, once a respected EDF captain, now stood before a cheering crowd of human supremacists. We didn't overthrow one alien regime just to bow down to another, he roared. Humanity fought and bled for our place in the stars. It's time we took what's ours. Roy watched the broadcast with growing dread. Everything they'd sacrificed for was unraveling before his eyes. A gentle hand on his shoulder broke him from his spiraling thoughts. Zara Kex, her Nigian features etched with concern, gestured for him to follow. In the privacy of a secure room, she activated a holographic display. We've got bigger problems, she said, her voice tight with nearly unleashed fear. The image showed a massive fleet of ships unlike anything Roy had ever seen, leaving devastation in their wake. They call themselves the Dredge. No one knows where they came from, but they're tearing through the outer systems like they're nothing. Roy's mind raced, weighing their options. They were fractured, squabbling over the spoils of a Pyrrhic victory, while an existential threat loomed on the horizon. In that moment, he knew what had to be done. The next day, Roy stood before the assembled representatives of a dozen species, former enemies and uneasy allies alike. He took a deep breath, knowing his next words would change the course of galactic history. We stand at a crossroads, he began, his voice steady and clear. We can continue to fight amongst ourselves, to nurse old grudges and seek retribution for past wrongs, or we can choose a different path. Roy's gaze swept the room, meeting the eyes of Nigians, Kragans, and his fellow humans. The Dredge are coming. They don't care about our histories or our grievances. They will destroy us all if we don't stand together. He straightened his shoulders, channeling every ounce of conviction he possessed. I propose a new alliance, not built on fear or domination, but on the understanding that our strength lies in our diversity, in the unique perspectives and abilities each of our species brings to the table. A murmur rippled through the assembly. Roy pressed on. It won't be easy. We've all suffered, all lost. But if we can put aside our differences and face this threat as one, we have a chance not just to survive, but to forge a better future for all our peoples. The silence that followed seemed to stretch for an eternity. Then slowly heads began to nod. Voices raised in agreement. It wasn't unanimous, but it was a start. As the newly formed alliance began to mobilize, Roy found himself once again on the bridge of the Vindication. The ship hummed with power, a testament to how far they'd come. Yet as he gazed out at the vast expanse of space, he knew their greatest challenge still lay ahead. The Dredge were coming, and the future of the stars hung in the balance.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.